Now being recorded. Very good. With that, I'd like to open the meeting. And first order of business, which is attached, in case you didn't get a chance to read them, the Peg's minutes from last week. So hopefully you all had a chance to read them. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes of August 6th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes accepted. Mike is on his way. Last time I spoke with him earlier today, so I expect him here. So we'll wait for those two pieces. Just some general updates. Dave and I met with Jeremy today, the TA. And proportionally, whatever the cost we come up with for the building, he's proportionally looking at a reduction of whatever the 149.50 was. So if you look at 149.50 and the building is 3% less, 5% less, whatever it may be, that would be the implied decrease in the money that the taxpayers would have. We don't know the numbers yet. He won't have the final numbers until October 3rd.
September 3rd.
September 3rd, sorry.
Oh, good.
And then Mike is going to give us a cost analysis today. We're looking at a number that's close to, in our last conversation, was 11.8.
Yeah.
For the reduced size.
What happened to under 10?
Can't get there from me, Peg.
I could have sworn I heard it right from his lips.
We spent a lot of time with the estimator, which I appreciate he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what he needs to do. Needing a professional estimator, which is an independent source, looking at the size of the building. I'm sure he'll arrive.
Tell him when it comes.
So hopefully, I mean, he'll be here shortly and then we'll go through that.
I think what he's going to tell you is unfortunately, even though you're decreasing the square footage, the main systems stay the same, the site work, the HVAC, a lot of the things are the same. So you're reducing the size and your cost per square foot actually goes up. So it's not, when it's not equal, it's not like you go down, you're staying at $500. I don't know what the number is, 500, you go down, you're at 600.
Hi there.
Good to see you, Carolyn. Have a seat. What do you like?
Thank you.
Carolyn Barthel, if anybody doesn't know who she is. She's one of our volunteers.
Hi, Karen. I live down by Southwick's.
You were on the energy thing too.
I'm sorry, but
You were on that energy.
yeah, I'm on the land energy use committee.
Mike Burton, yes. How you doing, Mike?
Nice to meet you.
Welcome. All we're going to introduce ourselves. Pick up a chair anywhere. Mike,
He's our new volunteer.
he's a new volunteer,
Mike
potentially.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's trying to join the committee, which I think takes a 45-day time frame. I think.
Okay.
And, but we do have an opening for the committee. Now, Mike, why don't you give us a little bit of background, then we'll all introduce us.
Sure. Good evening. My name's Mike Byrne. I'm a resident of Mendon for the past 20 years. My wife and I have been here. We run a small law practice. We've been raising 3 boys who all graduated from this system. We're actively involved with the town scouts and sports and want to be able to contribute what I can now that the kids are gone. Not gone, but at the house.
Moving to the next page.
Yes, yes.
Well, welcome. We appreciate that. Appreciate you stepping up and volunteers to be a committee person.
Happy.
Do you have any knowledge about committee and what we've been up to? Have you been following it?
Yes, I have.
Good, good.
To some extent. I was at the town meeting that was up in Nisco.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand the vote didn't pass, but,
Well, it passed at that town meeting.
Right, it
but
did,
not at
right.
the- Yeah, not that vote.
right. I'm familiar and, but I'm not familiar, as to currently what's going on.
Oh, good.
Some was.
Mike, how you doing?
Catch you off the speed.
Full house tonight, I see, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Just for Mike's benefit, why don't we go around the table quickly?
Gary, will go.
Peggy O'Gara from the Council on Aging.
Karen Sibley, volunteer. Kathy Huntington, volunteer.
Carolyn Barthel, volunteer.
John Vandersloot, volunteer.
Mark Pacino, emergency management. Mike Goddard, select board.
Elena Brugo, select board.
Dave Kersey, police chief.
Joseph Lee, part of the committee.
Mike Mandolia, part of the committee.
Mike Petrovic, architect.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I appreciate your interest in trying to join the committee. I think it'd be good. To give you a brief update of where we're at, obviously you knew we made it through the town meeting.
Yep.
We lost by 52 votes at the ballot election. So we went back to the select board and we said, we still need the building. The needs are still there. Requirements are still there. So what can we do to look at cost structure, whatever else might be more appealing to the town? And also looking at a working group, which is a communications group, see how they can better implement stuff. So we could use your expertise and thoughts and direction and comments. Tonight will be interesting for you. We're going to talk about, we did the normal stuff about meetings and minutes and things like that. But we're going to talk, Mike's going to give us a brief presentation and a handout of where he's at. He's in an assessment, reevaluating, reducing the size of the building, reduce the cost somewhat. We're looking to get all of our numbers together, be fair through the town administrator around October 3rd or September.
September 3rd.
September 3rd, I'm sorry, September 3rd. So that we have a position that we can go back to the community and say, here's where we're at with our design. Here's what its impact for taxpayer is. Here's the benefits, here's the plus side, negative side.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where we're at. So you're right in the throes of it. We need volunteers to help communicate.
Yep.
Spread the word. I was in the Scouts for a lot of years before you, probably
Yeah,
2 generations before you. Yeah, so you can actually reach a different audience that I'd like to reach.
sure.
So that'd be great. So welcome. I don't know if you have notes or not, but if you had a chance to print anything off, there you go. I think you have. With that, though, I'd like to, in the agenda items, we talked about Jeremy working on a percentage allocation of cost versus the original cost and subsequently reducing the rate or impact to taxpayers.
Right.
So we're at $149.50 per 500 assessment. So if we reduce the cost percentage-wise, he's just indicating that he'll probably reduce it. He's going to try to stay that model. He has more work to do with the financial community, interest people, bonds, and everything else. And that's what will come in on September. But with that, I'm going to let Mike, turn it over to Mike and give us an update of what his work is.
Okay. Sorry, Brian.
I'm sorry, Phil, just a quick way. So Jeremy is gonna go back out and get new quotes.
Yes,
He's just not doing a straight portion.
he's getting the quotes. He's doing full blown quotes. Right now, he did a preliminary round
Yeah.
to get quotes. And then he's looking at the portion right now, but he's getting the quotes. Looking at interest rates, short term, long term, and all those things.
I brought only 9.
Is that-
No, you have another. Just do it.
The background noise from the
Sure,
traffic is
sure.
really hard.
Is that light in your eyes?
We can share it, Mike.
Add them to it.
You're gonna have to, share as they come around, take one of each, the packet, and one here. Same thing going this way, one of the small ones and one of the packets. The small one on the top is financial analysis, and then we'll look at some more.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, it's that.
Like that, like. We can share. I'll share.
We're gonna share one. is that right?
Okay.
Have to do this stuff. Thank you, Sharon. Share.
I got a magnifying.
You don't, there's no.
You and I are sharing.
Did you mail?
We'll give you what it's still.
Okay, well, we want to put it away. Thank you.
Yeah, we share.
Everyone have the, does everyone have the handout? There should be a packet and then there should be a single sheet that's an 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, I have an extra one. Oh, you should check one of these. This is going to be consistent.
So, what we've been doing since town meeting is looking at how can we reduce the cost of this building? And how can we, and what does it take to reduce the building to get to cost? In the last meeting I was at, I was online. Yeah, we came up with the fact that it really needs to, originally we were at 13.2-ish million. And we need to get down below 12 for this to really be something that folks feel is palatable to the community. Ultimately, I would love to be below 10, but I went through some things with Phil and Dave on the phone today. And the reality of it is the building's going to be too small and it's not going to be worth doing the project if you try to get down below 10 million. Because what I want to point out, looking at the financials, the left-hand side is where we're at February 20th, 2024. That's what was taken to town meeting. And you'll see there's a series of costs there. But I want to point out in the center column there, the two numbers, 493.24. That's a per square foot cost of this building that we did an analysis on based on a building that was 13,400 square feet. When we reduce the square footage of the building, the square foot cost goes up. And you probably say, well, how does that happen? We still have heating equipment. We still have most of the pieces of the building. You're just taking out little sections of the building. So realistically, it only goes down by about $250 a square foot. So the per square foot cost then goes up. That's just the building industry. And every single client, whether it be a homeowner, commercial, municipal, tries to take that number and say, well, if we take 1,000 square feet out, we save X amount of dollars. It just doesn't work that way. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So yesterday I met with PM&C, who is our professional estimators, and we went through the numbers and got to some numbers that look that when we run them in the same spreadsheet and this runs through, we get to $11,713,646.91 for a building that will be about 9,800 square feet. And so what I've done is I've taken then, and how do we make the building, the design that we had, and turn it into a 9,800 square foot building from 13,400 that is workable for the senior center. We had gotten down to 10,200, and we have two examples of that. So on the first sheet that you're looking at, which is here, there are two floor plans that are 6,221 square feet. And the upper one is the most current version that is going to feed into this 9,800 square feet. So you're going to be looking at the upper floor plan. We basically took the building, pulled it in a bit, and we've got this thing down to 9,800 square feet. Then we go to the second page, and the upper one there also is what the lower level would look like. And it is 3,653 square feet. So in the building, we have all of the program elements that we had talked about with Amy and the committee early on. Some of them got a little smaller, but they're all there and all very usable. What we've then done is on the lower level, Phil actually did some work and found out for us, what do we actually need to make this food pantry work? So we've been able to reduce the size of the food pantry, still get a game room, still get a big room that's usable by the community and lock off, which is also dividable into two rooms. So when it's the senior center during the day. So again, rooms are going to start to be multi-purpose here. So we end up with a game room, two activity rooms downstairs, the food pantry, one of the health office, two restrooms, which both have showers. So it meets the checklist for emergency. And then upstairs, we have the multi-purpose room, which can seat up to 125 people as a large room, has a divider so that when the senior center is operating, one side is set up with tables, the other side could be exercise or whatever. So we have two rooms working there.
We have the seating area or the conversation area, the kitchen and its area, multiple restrooms and administration, and we've checked off every single box. And we're at below 12 million.
What's $10.5 million building look like?
What is what?
10.5 million. When we started this, we said, what does the 10.5 million get us? I haven't seen that yet.
Today we went through the exercise. It gets down to, you're gonna be down between 8,000 and 9,000 square feet. And what's gonna happen,
That
Is
doesn't
it-
help me in terms of understanding what that functionally is.
it is going to be, we're gonna have to then cut into that multi-purpose room, which is the one room that they really want with 125 people. So that room is gonna start to go below 100 people.
I in my conversation with them, we looked at them. And maybe I put my bias, but we can bring it back to committee. But if you get that low, you're substantially not doing much better than what you've done.
We don't meet the programming at all.
We don't need.
Never mind minimize the program.
Because we go up over $600 a square foot to do that. So the square foot.
I mean, Mike, if you'd like to see that, we can spend full dollars with Mike Petrovic. And you can see that, but we're not gonna get to where we wanna be.
No, that's still a legitimate question though.
Yes.
No, only because I'm not really good with just square feet stuff. I like 10 feet by 12 feet or whatever. I have an understanding of that. You and I were downstairs with Karen. We marked out the food pantry. This new food pantry, how does it compare to what we have now?
It's still a little bit larger, but it's meeting the square foot. When you and Phil met, Phil got me the numbers. This translates to that food pantry.
Okay, so it's a little bit larger. Would you say like another aisle, that type larger?
Yeah, the configuration.
Configuration's a little different. So
We
it's set up.
looked at shelf space. The shelf space is what you're serving the people.
Yep.
And we had, 450, and we went to, Karen and I measured it. And we went to 550 shelf space, gives you a little expansion there. So the area downstairs will be sufficient to grow. To help these, but it's more than enough to adequately support the current food pantry. Based on 500 shelf, linear square.
feet of shelf.
So you're telling me the food pantry space that's on here is a little bit larger than what we already have?
Correct.
And then you have a food storage area on top of that?
No, we don't.
See,
This
that's
is-
not anymore.
This
Well,
is
see, that's not-
everything. This is everything in one. You
Everything.
can't, I know it's hard to compare those, but when Phil did the shelf space and the area, we figured out how much square footage you would need.
We took the linear square footage of the storage area.
Yeah.
Peg, we took the linear square footage of the storage area as well. And included that in our number. So if you look behind, come down the steps, look behind the storage areas.
Yeah, where all the shelves are, where all the food is, yeah.
Yeah, but there's also backup shelves behind it where people, you have some bulk stuff.
Somewhat,
As you go through there.
Yeah.
You have the linear square footage going up and down the aisles.
okay.
Behind the desk, there's some other areas there. It looks like you
Get
store
the storage there,
storage.
paper goods, things like that.
And
personal
that was
products.
included in the linear square footage,
All right,
that area there. So that whole half of this basement, plus a little bit is covered.
So we've got room to store everything you have now and have people come in and pick up their goods. The upper floor plan, not the lower one, the upper one on that page.
Does this price include the shelving too?
There's fixtures, but yes, it's up, because you'll notice in here, we have a line item for FF&E. And there's almost $1 million, so that's for that stuff,
All right,
okay?
but there's nothing to stop you from having a storage building for non-perishable, like a box, trailer box, or whatever they have. For non-perishable, keep your paper goods and all that stuff in, and then you can restock out of that. You could do that if you had to, right?
Again, it's about trying to go more.
That's not part of this deal, I understand that.
It's trying, Mike's asking, how do we get to 10.5?
Yeah.
That's another $1 million, and I think you're gonna be in a building that's almost not worth building. Well, because I just explained that to you, Mike. We have to probably take,
Hold on, let's not get defensive. I just don't like it's not worth building. I mean, So all the heating and things, you've got fixed costs associated with the building. So I understand the square footage cost going up. It's actually, I'm not sure why we focus on that. I'm more curious about how much bigger space-wise is this than we have today? Percentage.
Square foot in the existing building,
I didn't bring with me, Mike, I sent it out.
About 3 times. So right now, we service about 12,000 people a year based on this document, which is about 230 people a week, which is about 30 people a day, roughly. So we think we're gonna do about 36,000 people, not even, this is gross, it may be unique, I'm not sure it's unique or not. It's a large building. We really have to be able to supplement information to demonstrate why we need something that big. So before we say it's too small to be worth it, just building a new building that's slightly bigger, but more modern, better layout, there's still a value to that.
Yes.
It's not just about
Safe
size,
parking.
right? So I just want to be really clear. It's not about not doing it. It's about making sure when I see data, then I hear this and I look at these numbers, I go, wow.
Right.
That's not a lot of people, 30 people. And it's an average, 30 people a day. I'm like, people will look at that and say, why can't you have 30 people a day? Who are you turning away? How many people are you turning away?
Yeah.
Do we require a building 3 times the size of what we have based on our programming and our expected need? We still haven't had, we don't see that. We hear about it. We need to see information because if you present numbers like this, people are going to come back at you like I just did.
Mike, I would appreciate that, and we will do that data, and we're working on some numbers.
I think
So,
Kathy did
Kathy
fine.
just did that.
I had done this stuff. I went back
Do you
to
have this
Amy.
one?
I think everyone should have this one. It's the Mendon Senior Community Center. And I looked at the reports we had submitted for 2023. And we went over some of this, the programming needs for privacy. Because when Todd was here, he said, well, what do you use the rooms for? So went through all this stuff and, recreational activities, the fitness corner, all the different functions that go on at the senior center. And there's future goals there. So I guess what you have to do is take this information and try and make it work over here.
Well, this was derived from Amy and the committee running through these numbers and when we did programming 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we went through what they needed in terms of room for so many people and what rooms they needed based upon something like this that they had put together. So this is derived from that.
Okay, a question for you. Why have 2 floors? Why don't you do one in a building?
Because it is actually more costly, number one. And number two, we have a site that's sloped. So when you have a site that's sloped, you're gonna end up with a walkout basement anyway. And a 2-story building is cheaper to build. So if we take these 2 floors and put them side by side, first of all, it would actually drive up the costs on that site because that site is sloped. And so now you're gonna be trying to keep this thing level and level out around it. So it's gonna be a lot more cut and fill. So this is a more economical building to build. 2-story buildings are always more economical than.
Okay.
Mike got it to your point, because we did go visit Upton when they built their new center. And he did say that they had quite an increase of people coming because the old facility, people didn't want to go to it. It was dark and gloomy and the people just wouldn't go to it. But when they saw this being built and they took an interest to it, and he said it sailed by the voters the first time. So we're expecting, like Kathy is saying, we're expecting an increase in programming and an increase of people.
Right, so
I think
when
that-
you put a percentage, we expect a 2-fold increase in participation. 20%, 30%. Because when you look at some of these future goals, as an example, evening yoga. What's preventing evening yoga from occurring at the current facility? Is it being used?
In some cases, there are evening meetings here, but I can't answer that.
But like, somebody say, do I need a new building for COA to meet there versus here?
I guess, Mike, there's a couple,
There's a lot of, it's a big tag. If you go back with this number, people are gonna look at it and say, it's not that much of a change. So you've got that dynamic, you gotta.
And you've lost space. I mean,
And maybe today's,
prices.
we go back to the original and say, well, why change it all? It's just little. That's actually where I'm leaning towards now, saying if it's gonna be this little, you're changing it for the sake of trying to drive
But-
perception.
How much is the cost going up if we go back to the original design?
The original design was 13.2.
Right, but I mean, this,
That's
okay.
higher.
That's the way before.
I don't know, yeah.
It's starting to creep up. I mean,
Yeah,
it
well,
happens one
there's
time.
already 4.75 built into this, knowing it's gonna go up next year. Right, so you've got to actually add another $500,000. So now you're approaching almost 14 million.
Oh, we can't do that. Oh, we can't.
Yeah,
So the longer you
wait, I hear you, and I think that's the question you've had. We can do the what if scenarios, what plan scenario. They would service lunch twice a week. It should be a four times a week. The demand. There's today, return away people, we can only do one event, at one function at a time. Within the building. There's demand there. We can put quantified numbers to satisfy your question. And I think we need to do that, and I agree. But I think to be the devil's advocate on the other side is that the building's performing to the population it can hold today because it's so small and restricted. I think the performance of the building could be much larger. I think the participation could be much higher. You can't park at the place. You can't accommodate people for more than any event because they're limited in size. You can't pull in multi-generational activity. You can't do parallel activities at the same time in that building. Meaning like as is example, after-school programs versus night programs.
Be careful, because like the multi-generational became a bigger focus when we talked about creating a new building. So absolutely agree with you. But I think when you say demand, we need to be able to best estimate. What is that demand increase that we're trying to satisfy? Because, and it's not, I mean, we're doing the numbers, Phil, but we've been doing this longer and we've never been able to articulate what we believe the demand to be. And that is just, that's going to be a credibility thing. As people are going to say, the more numbers you put out there, the more people are going to ask questions about numbers. And I just think to state, you expect a 50% increase in demand, 12,000 unique visitors versus total. So if you've got a population, you say population's growing, but you've got these same people using it, then 12,000 could be misconstrued, right? So I think there's a lot of ways these numbers are can be looked at.
They could be argued the other way and against it. And I agree. And I think in that projection, Mike, we'll have to project it as lost opportunity as well. Because there's a lost opportunity we currently have daily. Because of reconfiguring 2 to 3 times a day, because of one program at a time. So those in a demand, maybe you and I can sit down and figure out how to extrapolate the demand. It's current, because it's more than just, I've got one person today and 2 tomorrow. There's a lost opportunity we can't handle, we can't service today.
It's you demonstrating what is the current capacity and how is it being measured, right? So what programs are run today, which I think is in here. And how many participants do you have and what is the capacity of each program?
Right.
So not every program is going to be 100%.
No,
But you want representatives, we have the capacity to be X number of participants across 3 programs today. In the new building, we can run 6 programs today and increase that capacity.
Well, current capacity is 65 right now, so if the building is gonna go, if you're saying it's 3 times the size.
Well, but I mean, but it's not
that's not.
changing, it's not, yeah, it's very, I mean,
So your
I keep
capacity is
thinking about-
65 based on that design.
Right.
This
Yeah.
design-
it's important to think, like, the kitchen is getting bigger, there's more bathrooms,
There's
there are
actually
more offices. Right, so it's not that one space is getting bigger equally, and there are, you know, there are strong motivations for each of these spaces. And I think that's something that's important to say. It's not just like swelling the current building, it's very strategic about the kitchen needs to be bigger because the kitchen is not big enough to have, you know, more than 2 people working in there right now. And so if you're going to have any events, like you can't even though this current center manages to have events with a lot of people, it's not really built for that. With that tiny kitchen, it's like a little house kitchen.
Oh, yeah, that's
And the
just like a house down
Right,
there.
I mean, there are not sufficient bathrooms to have events that are actually held there now. Like, I mean, like, mean, maybe technically there are, but like it's there, you know, the new space has more bathrooms and I imagine that bathrooms are relatively more expensive to build, especially if we're adding in the
Showers.
shower ones for the
It's not
emergency
about the
management.
quantitative, just the quantitative, it's qualitative aspects to the
Yeah.
current building, we can improve upon the right
Yeah,
reasons.
and these are things that we, at some point, the committee had considered doing in the current space, but that would be also prohibitively expensive. I mean, and have the limitations of the city. So, you know, the cost of the bathroom, like the center needs more bathrooms, it needs a bigger kitchen, it needs better
It needs office space.
accessibility, it needs office space, right? It needs office space for like, yeah, confidential
Yep.
meetings. So all of these things, so it's not just bigger, it has more of the things that are needed to actually do the existing services to actually serve the people better.
So are we saying then, I'm looking at it from a communications point of view, are we saying we should look at this, look at each room and put what functions we think is gonna happen in those rooms? That's what you're saying then. So,
I mean, I don't know,
Yeah,
Frequency wise.
I mean, I think we could like, you know, not every communication, but we could communicate like, why do we need these bathrooms? Because I think these were questions that were asked, right? You worked through this with Amy, like, why do we need this many bathrooms? And why is the kitchen this size? Why do we, I mean, all of these questions, all of these design elements were because of a demand from, I think, from Amy working with Phil. Is that, I mean, from what I understand, and I think if we can have that information
You need-
somewhere,
you
like
need
for
succinct-
the 3 or 4 people who really want
You
to
need
ask these
succinct
questions.
what that changes. And I think we can take that on as a subcommittee or as a group. Peg and I and Amy and a few others. And then Mike will use you as a sounding board to make sure answering your question.
hey,
I hear what you're saying, Mike. I understand.
Even the community space can be used for programming.
yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? No,
Yeah.
talk about the community room down.
Absolutely.
Down the bottom?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that has a divider and becomes two activities.
Right, but I think last time we talked about this, the thought was all the senior programming, for the most part, aside from the games, like the big community room, that was, nobody talked about using it for programming. They had the game room next to it.
The one
And
that's-
my point is,
This is the
I think
little
we
one.
need to be very
Right here.
thoughtful about how the space is being used. Because a lot of people look at this from a scheduling perspective. Why can't you may have to break down and set up more than once a day in certain rooms.
Right.
That's just a reality, you know what I mean?
Look, I think we can articulate the deficiencies of the current center, which has been obsolete for at least 15 years. First, we'll do that. Secondarily, we can talk about programs within rooms. And if somebody wants to debate multiple scheduling and multiple programs, I'll be glad to discuss that with them. We'll have that reflection in our numbers, what we can run where. But if we go down those rabbit holes, I think we're getting down to an area of questioning that gets beyond reality.
I think what I'm suggesting, you should justify a 3-fold increase in space for senior communities. And that's all I'm
Well,
saying.
And we should make sure it's threefold, right?
Well,
I mean, I'm just remembering,
right.
you know, and I've looked at the, like, with the assessor.
That's my point. That's my point. Whatever the increase is,
Right.
is
I think we should, it's worth talking about, like,
you're making an argument
the
for similar
existing,
price.
The
right,
one that
the
we-
existing,
Left.
not just square footage, but like how many offices,
Initially,
you
The one that
know,
Karen
these
said.
offices.
I mean, we built a police station that's 4 times the size of the old one.
Mhm.
And
It's
our
still-
programming hasn't changed a bit.
Yeah,
But it's just because we were so insufficient where we were.
right.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with the senior
so
center.
it's 4 times, is it?
Oh,
Yes, you remember the old one? over
Yeah.
there?
No,
How many times?
9,200 square feet here, and we were probably less than 2,000.
That size of this room.
Yeah, because this was,
This was it.
So,
but to circle back, so I think we're getting off track really far.
We can say the same thing for the
Yeah.
fire,
This was the fire station.
was the fire station.
Yeah. So,
So again, the present fire station is much bigger than the old one.
but to circle back, you know, to our agenda item here,
Yes.
you know, you brought up the question about a 10-5 building. So maybe
I just did.
Phil and I took that on. because we had our conversation today, I think we're also running out of time too. So if we spend too much time going over this over and over, we'd be able to police station behind 10 months and up $1 million. And that's just time is money when it comes to this. So I mean, we can go over it again, what you said today, but maybe that's on Phil and I for looking at it and saying, I think it was like 8,200 square feet you
So
showed.
I
us.
just did.
It just
so
wasn't
then
gonna be the programming.
I have this live, so I just plugged some other numbers in. And so it gets down to 7,500 square feet. Which is now 2,000, that's really taking the multi-purpose room off the building. For size sake.
We can't do that.
And at that point, you know, that you have to evaluate that, whether you can live in that, whether that provides the space.
We can't get rid of that.
Point.
So one way that I feel like I could sell this more to people is if I had, I guess, more of an itemized list of like the costs of, you know, something that we can actually share with people, like, okay, this is what the parking lot's gonna cost, this is what the site, I mean, like rough.
But I
doesn't
can
have to
tell
be
you,
exact.
give that out, you open up the doors.
Yeah,
for
that's-
everything.
that's a bad idea.
All the questions that we have from,
I think that's really what's gonna help you sell this is what Mike's asking for. What you're talking about is now taking this and running a program around this. What is the use of these spaces every day to justify it? I've seen that you can we do provide that. But I think if you give that to the public's gonna go in and say, oh, you know, it doesn't cost this much. for
Because they don't
the
understand
framing."
state procurement, and they're gonna look at it in- like I did with a garage and say $750,000 for a 2-car garage is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
But that's what a municipal garage is gonna cost you. So we're gonna open up that page. This is just ridiculous how much we're spending on this
I think that
building,
could work against you in some ways.
Definitely.
because it is ridiculous how much you spend on municipal buildings.
Well, but all the stuff that happens in the lower section, bonding and insurances and all that stuff that you have to do a municipal project, it adds millions onto a project. I mean, when you really look at it, the building is half again as expensive just because of all that stuff added onto it.
You have a question, go ahead.
It strikes me that the trick with what Upton did is that they really visualize, they really envision what their public space is going to be. And you know, if we can get a clearer picture of really how we can use this building, then people will get more invested in it. You know, it's, you know, oh geez, yeah, I can, you know, I have that, you know, the garden club, you know, needs to meet, you know, geez, we could go there instead of going to the senior center, you know, it's kind of in picturing the future usage and so that people can really imagine the utility of this building.
I think we started to do that in the beginning, so I think maybe we just didn't get the message off in the beginning, because we did do that with the first round of this. But I don't think maybe the message obviously didn't get across to everybody.
and we can do more due diligence there.
Mhm.
Talking
Because
about.
we brought up like the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts,
Yeah.
you know, all the
I
events, we
think
have town meetings.
You also
you know.
need to justify it day to day for senior center. What's gonna go on
Yeah.
here? Is it the same
We need
12
a
people
schedule.
or is it 30?
Kathy gave you some of the stuff. Kathy put some of the schedule.
Yeah.
Read the schedule.
Very good, buddy.
Right.
Are we still gonna do walking trails and all that stuff?
That money was already agreed upon,
All right,
when it passed, yeah.
and it's not, when it's built, it's gonna be easily expandable, right?
Mhm. We actually show on the site plan 2 places where it should.
Okay, that's okay.
And people have said, you know, that they misunderstood and they thought that was part of the 12 million. Has nothing to do with the money of the
I
building.
don't, people didn't understand that, I know that.
I think as a group, we have to get together and put a stake in the ground, decide which direction we're going. Are we gonna, you know, go with this version? Do we want to go back to the original version? But that stake has to be put in soon because time is running out. Ballots are gonna start going out, the votes are being casted before they're even the election, you
Well,
know?
essentially, I think we're trying to answer the request to look at a building that is less in cost.
Yep.
We were hoping to get a smaller number, but as Mike did his effort and work, we still came in at
11.7.
11.778.
Which is a significant savings.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
we're tasked to do.
7 is
That was significant.
is smaller. So like that, we didn't,
We
I
didn't,
mean, the select board didn't have like a specific amount to be smaller. I think we all hoped it could be smaller than this, but,
12% reduction.
but that is right. It-
Also fighting inflation, which is 4%, so it's
Right.
like a 16% reduction.
But that amount of money is being actually eaten up by the price per square foot because it's really increasing.
Some of it is, so some of it is, yeah.
If you put on for another year, it's gonna be.
Oh, no, we can't.
But it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
one and done.
but I mean, could there be also operational savings by having the smaller footprint? I mean, is that in terms of heating?
You're gonna have a lot of upfront costs like all the heating and the cooling and the, there are there are givens in a building. And the smaller the building, the higher those proportional costs would be.
But you're also building an efficient building too, so you don't know
Yeah.
if it's gonna really, that was built in the early 90s. I mean, the police station, there were walls you can go through and see the heat just stop pouring out the side of the building. So I mean, it might be the same way over there. So now when you have, spray insulation and
We're
building.
actually doing high performance.
Yes, so you may actually save in utility costs for a bigger building.
Could.
compared to, all construction.
Yeah.
Right, it's being designed modern.
Exactly.
We're not taking an old house. This is not this old house.
And under a stretch code, under the stretch code, so,
Stretch code is
Yeah.
applied here.
So-
Actually, we go beyond stretch code.
Yeah. so.
But one thing to bring up is that if you were going to rebuild if you were going to build the existing senior center from new, then put a number on that. That's always an interesting number.
Can you give us the cost per square foot for a 4,000 square foot building or whatever it is, so that we can amass that information?
Yeah, so
just
I would
generally?
use you could easily use this $525 as a starting point on that discussion. So it's not, I don't think it's 4,000 square feet.
I don't know what.
I have no idea.
I don't,
We have the numbers on that. We don't have.
I don't have that very much.
Too large, too small, 4,000.
I think it's too large. I don't think that building, because
So
remember,
that's somewhere in the 3,500 square foot. And the 7,000 square foot, which is double the size, which is in the $10 million range.
Yeah.
We're doubling the size for the price tag we mentioned,
I'm just gonna run that calculation.
just saying.
Well, we're actually saving the town money too, because if we do get a new center, they will inherit that building and they can just reuse it.
Yeah. No, I guess my point would be, if I were to come to you, Peg, and said, you can get a building twice the size, square footage for what you have today. Can you make that work?
Would say no, because operationally, it is not
Well,
effective.
I'm asking Peg, come on.
I'm sure it is. Can I make it, we're making it work today. Quite
Yeah,
frankly.
so twice the
You're asking
size.
if I can make it work with
But if you're
personnel that I.
3 times undersized right now.
You're 3
we don't
times,
know.
What you don't know, you're 3 times undersized.
you outgrew the building 15 years ago when it was built, added
You
on.
try to build the building for 20 years out, right? That's what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Well, not anymore. This is turning into like a 10-year build out, right?
No,
Based on
this
the
is,
reduction.
this is longer than 10.
Well, we originally,
Original
the ask
contract.
was to do a 10-year build, like we knew we'd have to come back in 10 years for an expansion. So this is beyond that, which is good.
It should be, Mike. Mike, we put some we put some moderate logic behind this and rational thinking so that we wouldn't build a building that would be obsolete. And maybe that's to my fault, but
I'm sorry, what did you say again, Phil?
I think we took the building and we said, we need to build something that's not gonna just move us into something that's just right for now. So it's obsolete the day we move in.
Yeah, we want some expansion
Yeah.
and being.
And that's the tradition we've done.
It is enough public land. See, down there, there's no place to expand down there. There's no way to
Reduce it
expand.
to what we talked about.
We did get 1 acre of land, no.
With a
that's what the
10-year
current
target.
We were hoping to do that, Mike. The numbers that, when we ran it through the estimators, didn't come up. That's the bottom line. We were,
To rebuild the building that's there, it's $2.5 million. To just, to
get the
rebuild
same-
that same building today. Because remember, that building would have to come up to code, which it's
Yeah.
not.
Well, let's not repeat that then. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
It's no site work, that's just a building. That's no site work, that's no escalation, that's no.
No bigger,
It's-
No well, no septic system.
there's nothing else.
right. So
That's not what we
same,
go.
same tiny kitchen, same
Yeah, so you've got
bathrooms.
really one program space because you can't use that program space above because it's not code compliant. You shouldn't be, they do.
Right.
So you really have one room and an office or two offices and a
And upper
basement.
roof is not code compliant?
You're speaking to design now, right? What I was saying is if that's 3,500 square feet and not usable, so what would a building twice the size of that in square footage designed properly, would that benefit the senior center?
$10,700,000 right here.
Right, so that's my point is like, I heard that won't meet the need, which is fair,
Mhm.
based on the discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking other people, if a senior center was twice the size that you have today, designed functionally, would that meet any need?
Yes,
How many,
yes.
how many can you accommodate in the senior center right now?
65 is a maximum. 50 on the main room and 15 upstairs.
Can't use the.
You really
upstairs
shouldn't be
room.
using
No,
them. upstairs.
Well,
You
we,
can't
You
even.
can't,
well, we
The
use,
second.
you use whatever, you use the basement.
I mean, I don't know how you, so this is what Phil and I went through today. How do you cut off 2,000 square feet to save $1 million? So if we go down to a building that size, we just cut off 2,000 square feet to save $1 million because we're at 11.7. We go down to 10.5, 10.4, we cut 2,000 square feet off for $1 million at that point.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Because of the diminishing returns on savings when you start cut down the,
Right.
cut down the price.
There's a point where you
Square
get
footage.
small enough that everything gets smaller. Yeah.
Because it's the same HVAC, it's the same site
I
work, it's the
personally,
same.
I think it wouldn't want it any smaller than this. I wouldn't think you'd want it any smaller.
then his current, you're talking about
Yeah,
his
yeah,
current.
right in front of us, right there.
Well, that's 10.
See, I'm just going the other direction, building back up.
6 and
We're,
4.
well, it's a fair,
It
because
is,
we've seen something we like.
Yeah.
And now we're saying, "Ugh, we really want to reduce it because it made a lot of sense.
Mhm.
We still need to validate
It's close to 10.
this is required space.
I think no matter what, you're right, no matter what you do, you have to then take the floor plan and you have to run a schedule that says this is the programs we're gonna run on a daily basis because we have this space.
Mhm.
But you also need to think of how many people you actually gonna have there in a daily, not what you can, but what you're gonna have there.
So we need to know how many people we're turning away and how many events we cannot hold.
Right.
So the 125, that, absolutely you keep that room or something that can accommodate a large, because there will be annual, semi-annual, quarterly things that require a celebration, a big room.
But it should be used more often than that.
Well, and we've done it, we've split up
Yeah.
each program,
Mhm.
but I think just, so that's a functional use. We need a big room, we don't have a big room. Yes.
Okay, I think we should probably cycle this back in. I think, Mike, your point's well taken. We need to do that analysis. And we as a team will try to come up with that offline as a committee.
And we'll work with Amy on that.
COA, yeah, COA and Amy. I think there's a practical thing that we need to look at is size wise. And whether we go through a build project and spend $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million for something that is just adequate to get us by. And then we can always, a committee, look at that and say, want to vote on that and present it back to the select board and the townspeople. Or we look for a building that is adequate for our needs plus some growth. Reducing cost, but still being something that we can use for the senior center and community and putting footprint. So I think an action item we have is to come together, Peg, you and I and Amy, anyone else who would like it, Mike, you can join us, to come up with an analysis of pieces and parts and what goes in each one of these.
Yep.
We can do that. If I look at what work that Mike Petrovic's done, I look at the size we were at, the size that he's proposed at both levels.
Mhm,
And we looked at the 8,000 square foot,
mhm.
and I categorically looked at that, and said, that's probably impractical, and why do we build it? That's me, that's not the committee. But we can look at that again. But,
I think this is about 60% of the analysis. You can take that, run programming through the new build and where all these things happen and when.
it is 60%. There's another slice, there's been many slices of that.
But my point is, this is a lot of the information you need to run the programming and design, and then you can overlay wish list programming of what you
Right.
plan to do. You can even say, we expected to have this many users. It's all forecasting.
Mhm.
So it's best guess.
But Mike,
Well, that's all anybody could do.
Mike, I think we're looking at it from different perspectives. You're correct. We need to put it in a financial model that shows forecasting for you and other people who have this appointment. We've looked at a couple different ways, but we can do that.
Because we have had people ask about space, and we've had to say no. We haven't kept track of that. But we
What about-
probably should have.
What about on a day-to-day basis, daily during the day, do you turn people away, like we're full for things or?
Certain things, right now, certain things. The veterans program is the toughest one to swallow for us, which is why we want that larger room and larger kitchen.
So I think once you have all of this information and you've figured out what the programs are, how many people, there's a way to graphically show that using these floor plans and so that someone looks at a spreadsheet, then looks at this, they don't put it together. I'm going to help you put it together,
All right.
in something presentable.
Kathy,
So
thank
that
you
when
for doing
someone
that.
looks at it, they get it.
Okay,
So that's a really phenomenal point that Mike brought up.
okay.
You need to now prove this out.
Because I know Amy has a list of things that she wants to do, the wish list that she said she's been there 15 years and the space has just been a constraint the whole time.
It has to be then how many people is she realistically going
Mike,
to draw?
what type of representation do you have?
So what we would do is do a floor plan and then literally for each room and have an arrow and list what current programs would be in there and how many people. And then in another color, say these programs we could add and we would have this many.
Do you have an
people.
example of that representation that you've used before?
I don't see.
I don't, but I can quickly put it, well, not right now, but I can give you.
Yeah.
Can you do it in 5 minutes?
What's that?
Can you do it in 5 minutes?
Why don't you do that?
No, but Hunter or somebody else could.
If you
but-
could.
Mike,
The
the
point-
other thing I do is put a calendar next to it. So you've got and so you have the current calendar of scheduled events and you're maxed. And then you put the future look of what the same calendar looks like and you see it filled out. Next to this, you start to demonstrate
And you actually
just the
have,
the opportunity cost, whoever said that.
so it isn't presenting this, it's taking this and using it to combine with all that data. That's what's gonna sell.
Right, and I'm following what you're saying. In other words, it's almost like when you belong to a gym or something and you're signing up and you the gym tells you how many spaces they have.
Yeah.
And as they fill up, they tell you how many are left.
You go, visually demonstrate what's in Amy's head. Like, here are all the things I've always wanted to do, I haven't been able to. I can now do these programs.
In these rooms.
Because
Okay.
nobody
And
at
then-
town meeting understands what she's been trying to do, unfortunately. This starts to set that vision,
I'm going to be subversive here and point out that 52 votes is not very many. And it strikes me that if we would have a clearer idea of how we can actually use the space and have people be more invested in it and envision that this is really more of a central part of this town than we really have, because we have lots of different buildings, piecemeal buildings, doing different useful functions, but we don't have a center. And I think 52 votes isn't very many, really.
I agree, it's not very many. Are you suggesting going back to the bigger number, or are you just saying?
I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I'm
mean-
not sure exactly what the tactic is,
Yeah.
but I mean, I love the idea of the original building. Because I think we need to have a center for our town.
But I guess, I also like the original building, but I guess I don't know that I feel the loss of the space that was taken. Like, I feel like the slightly more compact, I know it's not a huge savings, but I didn't look at it and think, oh, but we lost that thing that I really wanted.
Right.
So at least I did, so like,
Yeah.
and so for me, like, it's that added, like, even though it's not a huge savings, there is that, it's a psychological I mean, it makes a difference to people, because I've heard a lot of people saying like, well, if you just go back with the same number, you make people mad. And I don't know, like, it's not gonna be everybody. We don't have the polling to say like, how many people will change their vote to no because they're annoyed that we did this
Well,
versus.
there's a lot more people voting too.
Yeah, it's true. We'll have, yeah.
Well, Phil, if you want the committee, to make a decision and put a stake in the ground, you want to do that at the next meeting, as I've told him, then I think we've got to get those numbers out to social media. I think we've got to see what people are saying on social media.
Social media is an interesting dynamic though, right? If you look at it, if you do a poll out there to social media, you can get the vocal people and you're gonna get the non-vocal people.
I don't think we let social media decide. We got the message across months ago that the biggest thing was a price reduction. The board and from everybody else we polled. So we're doing our diligent effort to make sure we do a price reduction, but not sacrifice the services to an extent where we shouldn't have a building. And I think that's what we are right now. And I agree with you that,
Yeah.
you know, and not only programming, we need to, what you said, explain that some of these spaces don't exist. We have one office over there. We have one person, an assistant who sits in
An open
the main
room.
area by the books that you can sit in your library. Like, we don't have these things.
Right.
So part of this isn't just programming, it's providing spaces that we don't have for the employees to have a good work environment, period.
We've invited people to stop in anytime they want. We made that completely clear. Please come down. We would love to show you around.
You have to present that case.
Yeah.
Only so many will stop. In my
Right.
experience, you need to present that case. So everything that's being talked to you about tonight is presenting the case now. I would like to say that architecturally, from a spatial standpoint, it did save money and you really haven't given up a lot. We creatively made sure that you didn't physically lose spaces, and the spaces are not maybe as large as they were before, but they're certainly adequate to serve the population you're serving. The other thing is that we're looking at making sure that that rooms have multi-purposes so that someone doesn't look at this large room and say, well, so that's for 2 programs a year. You have to really demonstrate that this thing is being used every day. And that's what has to happen now. I don't know, I personally don't think it's necessary to go back to the larger building. It says that you went to the drawing board, we did some work and you reduced it. And now you're justifying why we need what we're asking.
So, yeah, in some ways, I think it's actually, reinforces the arguments we made of why we needed the space. We couldn't reduce it that much, right? We couldn't, like, this was the space that we needed, and so, you know, it's not a dramatic change from the space that was before, because it's still the space that's needed. So, like, as that was an argument that some people made, I think, was it you, that's like, we said we needed this much space.
You gotta tell them.
Yes, we needed this much space, but we sacrificed,
There's a minimum we
a
give by.
little bit here and there, but like
Without
most of it,
saying
we
again.
couldn't.
Well, that was for growth.
Yeah.
We needed it so we didn't have to come back and ask again.
This will get us through 15 years, 10 years, whatever we come up with.
It's a multi-phase story.
The argument can be made, this is a 15-year building.
All right, 15 years, whatever.
Okay, this is a multi-page story. Today, the building is not sufficient for a lot of different reasons. We named a bunch of them. So that's number one. People are sitting, the administrative staff is sitting in the community room. There's no privacy for
None.
visiting nurses, veterans, any of those committees, any of those activities. There's no office space for people to function in. You can only run one function at a time. There's no multi-duplicate. So that's the minimum to start with. Then we can put the programming space into it and say, here's what we can do and here's what the schedules are. We're woefully underutilization compared to other towns and what they offer because we don't have the capability. Our people deserve what I think is now. That's a good point right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. We should pull Upton's calendar on their new site, on their new building. We should
Do
put
what?
calendars and programming.
Right.
We should go pull down and show comparative towns to say, this is what Upton offers.
Right.
We can't, right, we can't,
Bellingham is a very busy center. They even have the adult daycare.
Right.
There's
They
tons
are,
of- yeah.
the memory cafe, they are busy. They're
And I think we'll just list all those things that we need to do as a community. Here's today that we can't do. Here's what we need to do, and here's what we want.
Yeah, and Amy knows Josie. I think there's a new director in Upton, my feeling is, but she knows Josie over in Bellingham.
I think Upton would be a better comparison.
You do?
Bellingham is just, it's a commercial town, 20% commercial
Oh.
taxes, they can afford.
Good call.
Yeah, they can afford some different things unless they really can.
I don't know.
Not produced.
Too.
All right, I'll forward
And it's
this
new.
message to Amy.
Yeah, it's new. Upton's basically Mendon, just right there.
Richard?
No, we're the same. They just spend their money differently and they've got different historical.
They're a little, just a, that's a scoop.
So I guess a question for Mike.
Which
So
one?
about, sorry, Patrick. So when you had that 3D rendering, I think that really convinced a lot of people seeing this beautiful space. And I'm wondering, like, this new design is not that different. Like, would it, like, how quickly, if we went with this smaller space, how quickly could we get a comparable,
But we're
like,
gonna have
3D
all of
render?
that. We're gonna-
Okay, like the full color ones,
Yeah.
people really.
People were really feeling that was
I'm
worth the money.
serious, like.
That was worth the money. It was
It was,
impressive. It
like-
was impressive.
We're selling the sizzle.
People
Right.
love that. Yeah, so I think, yes, easily, we will absolutely provide that. And I think it's important that we actually populate these floor plans with all this other information so that they understand what's gonna happen in this.
So,
I'm looking at
you
Shane.
have here, Mike, you need to go to your estimate to get the final.
We're gonna do that, sorry, that tomorrow, so I think we're gonna do,
12/8.
needs a 9,800 square feet. to run with it. Because I need some compensation. Because we've never run them in.
Under 10,000.
And color scheme?
Yeah.
Okay.
You like that?
We
Everyone
did-
loved that.
did,
Everyone that we
yeah.
talked to loved it.
Seem like they care about colors.
Okay.
If you like it, they should.
That's how it's used.
The building with the red barn and all that, yeah. Seemed very traditional.
That's true.
and
Yeah.
Okay, so actions from here, Mike, you're gonna go
I just joke around.
We'll just stab them
for
out.
that scheme, you're gonna run that tomorrow, you're gonna start.
Well, we're
working.
gonna start them on that tomorrow. You know,
So first, Phil, are we good, the whole committee good with this version? Do we wanna,
Well, we should probably, look for committee consent.
do we wanna look at a smaller version? Do we wanna?
I want to ask about the garage line item.
It's gone.
It's just gone.
Mhm.
Okay.
it's gone. and
700.
So that would be one thing that
With a
I'm,
number
that's
in it.
one thing that I noticed.
I also want to point out that we
Yeah,
got the
almost
roadway
600,000.
last time, and I honestly think, I was thinking, oh, did we actually we pulled the roadway out? And
Yes, we
so we need a driveway to get in there.
Yes, you
Okay,
So that's why it's back.
so
in-
we
in
can
this
say,
number.
okay, this new number includes the roadway.
did.
Well, For
Partially.
now, because I
Driveway.
want you to understand, I'm sitting with the estimator to go back through the whole design so
Yeah.
that we make sure everything's accounted for the way it should be. So, and the site design, I think, is gonna change a little bit because this building's a little smaller. We can reduce some parking. The roadway doesn't need to extend past the building. The entrance in can be different. So there's some savings there.
Into driveway, right?
It's a driveway, it's not a road.
It's not a road.
So you're saying you could save on the driveway?
Don't get caught up on
No,
that.
no, I'm just trying to make sure I'm hearing correctly.
Yes, I believe that there's some savings there and on that site work in general.
Well, I was gonna throw out because I wasn't quite hearing what you were saying, but you were making I was thinking that my in-laws have reconstituted highway material for their driveway.
Can't use it on this because this is actually going to be built to certain standards. I've used that. It's challenging. It has, and on a roadway that's used like this and plowed by town vehicles,
Skip it. Okay, okay, fine.
by spring, it won't look so great.
Okay, got it. Yeah, okay, got it. Good point.
And the town guys do a great job, but they need something that's going to be durable and they can just.
Yeah, no,
I
that makes
guess,
sense.
as a committee, we haven't, Mike, you're gonna go run with the,
Mhm.
So I'll make a motion to move forward with this version of the building going forward
Second.
from this point on.
all in favor?
No discussion first, right? Discussion.
Just how we get a second.
You seconded it, right?
Let's
He
go.
seconded, Mike, you seconded, it. Yeah, Mike,
Any discussion?
another Mike.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm a vocal alternate.
Hide behind that shell when it's convenient.
No.
What do you?
Well, one of us
There might be switches.
Spoken up in the discussion to say like, I have no vote, but this is what I would vote.
Well, you two might be switching.
We will be,
See?
yeah, but.
Look out.
Well, we may be adding some more counter people.
Okay, so the motion is to go with this. Now, Mike Byrne, we gotta hear from you, because this is your first day here. What do you think, thoughts?
He won't be back. No,
We have some challenges, Mike, as you can see.
no,
He's in jail downstairs. He's going nowhere.
no, I thought Mike raised some good questions. Just as a public. So I thought there was some good points. I don't know I'm just curious, when is this vote? I mean, when is the anticipated date? of this?
November
third.
November.
Well, there's two votes. There's
Sir.
the
The
election.
special town meeting be sometime in the fall. We're setting a date tomorrow.
But the general, it's the presidential election will be the
Yes.
first hurdle.
Maybe.
Is there-
Maybe.
There have been people who have requested a late October special town meeting date. So we have to, because we have to accommodate like the assessors and the town clerk and the moderator. So there are multiple, so
There's other
Wait,
business.
if there
to take care of.
Yeah,
If they-
cash certified in time.
yeah. I guess we've got an assessor right here, so. So yes. We'll know tomorrow, so.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
We'll all be there.
So, but we know actually, like, the early voting, the mail-in voting is gonna start in October anyhow, so like, it might be helpful to have the town meeting vote before the election.
Hey, baby, yeah.
We gotta work.
Who knows?
some things. Who knows?
Yes.
I know, but I think the earlier we have the numbers, right, and I think the images.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you'll have the numbers around September 3rd. That's what you say.
So that's a couple weeks.
And the images will be about,
At the same time.
okay.
What I need though, to get you the really good images, I really need you to do the work on that. What those spaces are
Right.
used for,
But they're
so I
gonna be
can
used
really
for.
create some nice graphics for you to support what you're trying to do.
I'll talk to Amy about it tomorrow.
I'll be there.
And if we need to do a Zoom to kind of run through that together, after you do it once, I'm happy to do that. I think that we may have missed a piece there in selling this the first
We
time.
probably
Presenting that information.
Probably.
I think this is,
It's good.
I think this is fine building, it'll be great. But let's do it right.
Okay, all right, so we'll find out more than at the select board's meeting.
Because this committee is also, or someone from this committee is also doing a presentation tomorrow at the.
It's a simple presentation.
What's it on? Is it on
Yes.
our progress?
It's 12/8. Redesigning, getting ready for October
Okay.
3rd, early ballots.
11:08.
11/8. Maybe.
I'm like, yeah, where did they?
If football gets out early enough, I'll be.
Oh, yeah, right, 11/8.
11:08.
What's a month?
Yes, I
So
know.
the number is 11/8.
So just so I just have to go back in front of the select board,
That's the
so I understand,
That's the
or
price now.
So-
2013.
We're giving an update.
That's right.
So, yeah, the select board will.
Yeah.
I guess- Yeah, we need to have the warrant article and then, but that won't have the numbers in it. The numbers will be in the motion.
Correct.
I think we're also trying to use like select board meetings as just as a communication avenue, since we can get some people watching, so the more we talk about it.
Our view count isn't that high. It's 0.
Zero?
So we're live right now, no one's watching, so.
Well, but some people go back for the recordings, right? Gotta check our YouTube,
Yeah.
viewer
1 or
count.
2 views. So, but the board people watch.
Okay. I think we've covered the tactics around the rebuilding, the cost. Working group on communications.
Well, what I can tell you is that yourself and Karen and myself, we put together a blurb to go into the senior scene. And we're probably going to use it for the newspaper as well. We dumped it off to Amy. She has the final say, and I have not heard anything, but I thought it looked good. The people who wrote it and we did four outtakes on it, so, did you end up seeing it?
I did see it. I didn't have a chance to. reply,
Yeah,
But it looked, I didn't, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
So,
I think we put in the things that people wanted us to do.
And I was comfortable with the way it was phrased about.
At the end.
But yes,
Yeah, because
And
they're
there's-
say, please vote for.
right, we have to make sure that we're careful not to use any like public resources to advocate for a yes
Mhm.
or no vote. I mean, because it's
It's
a
more,
valid question, right? So I think, actually, I had this conversation with Jeremy and he suggested that it's sort of, if you ever have a question, think about whether it's like, if it's for, say, a select board candidate, could you say, vote yes for this select board candidate? No, you couldn't. So we have to do the same. We can put the arguments about what we need
Mhm.
and we can say where the vote is and
Didn't we say something like, we need your support? I'm just trying
yeah,
to.
and there is this.
Please give this
completely-
project your support, we
Right.
said.
There's the completely independent ballot question committee that does not have the same constraints.
Yeah.
So
Well,
people
we're
can ask
signing it.
about that.
We're signing it from the committee rather than from the Council on Aging. That was one of the changes,
Okay.
But that's fine.
because the council didn't.
Council, yeah, the council didn't have time to run the session.
Right, we're not in session till September.
That's fine, and I think.
Are we the only ballot question on this?
The only town one, but I think there are multiple state ones.
Okay, but we're the only.
So we're
town.
probably, I think, I saw there might, I don't know. Not sure,
I'll find out
no,
tomorrow.
but we might be like, I don't know, 5 or 6 even.
With the federal, with the
With the state ballot question.
Okay,
I don't know, Carolyn.
towns, I think it's just.
I'm not sure. I'm sure there are ballot questions.
I was looking that up today because I had that question and I saw something like 5, but I don't know if they all made it. So,
Okay, well, but we're the only one on.
the only town one, yeah,
Okay.
that I know.
All right.
Sure, ran a little longer. The other things that impact the yes and no, we kind of covered that, how we do that. We can't do that from town resources, what we can do is the independent committee to make this happen. We all can make our views. Now, according to Jeremy, we can all make testimonials. We had that question before. So we can make video testimonials if we'd like, highlighting points. We can record that, YouTube it, whatever we want to do with it as a private citizen. We just can't use town resources. The other piece on this is updating community calendar. I think the critical dates, I think we talked about them. Mike, you've got some action. You have a final estimate will be done.
It's right here, I think. I'll have that for you tomorrow.
If you have that tomorrow,
Mhm.
Peg, you and I can get together with Amy and figure out when we can have the consolidated number set to answer the questions of utilization. Because we need to set a time frame on that. Because that's one of those projects that could go on forever.
That needs to happen because I need that information.
Yeah, and we can do that pretty quickly. And then the other piece we need to worry about is the time that the early ballots go out.
Okay, early October,
Oh, yeah.
mail-in ballots go out in early October, you have on this.
Yeah. That's only on the, so that means that we need to be on the street
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before that, with communications from the committee to support it. And also factual data. Jeremy said he's ready to stand up anything on the website, town website, factual data, design work, numbers, that's all factual data. We can post that on the town website. We can't post the fact that vote yes. So we can do that. He's ready to stand that up for us whenever we're ready.
I think you put it up there as a package.
Yeah.
Put it all up there. All the stuff that's in that. So that-
Rather than dribble.
Yes.
Up with the tax rate, right?
We're gonna have that September 3rd.
September 3rd. So that'll come in line right with everything else.
Okay.
So we'll have that in our communication, but. And the current thing is just proportional to what it was before, but we'll let Jeremy work. He's engaged already. With the accountants and whoever else he needs to be for lending.
Can't imagine the rates would be much different. Rates haven't changed since last spring, right? Been steady at the same once they hit.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much, I think pretty much. Anything else in new business or other concern we have?
I guess I just wanted to mention that meeting we had with the congressman.
Oh, yeah, but you should mention that.
So
Between
just to
the center.
mention, right, so,
Okay.
the request for the earmark that he put in for the congressional earmark has made it through another stage. Did we already mention this at this meeting? But anyhow, so there is that chance that it'll be another 800, was it 850? We could have
850,000.
congressional, like federal funds towards this project. The timeline for that will of course not be before this vote, but I think showing community support for the project, I think will help the congressman argue our case on the floor. So I
I
think,
think it's also going to show due diligence by this committee and the town to pursue other avenues of funding rather than just
yes,
going to debt, you know?
And would you earmark that to pay down this number? They need to, people need to know you're not gonna add another 800.
Right.
right. It would be, right.
I don't
Are you
understand.
guys, would you pay it all down, or would you look at the garage that was kind
Well,
of,
that would be. a separate
Look at the
option, right.
garage.
There are some
Right.
parameters we need.
do
to-
both, pay
Right.
down and
Right.
pay the garage at the same time?
It's gotta do a couple things.
I think the garage is important.
It is.
It's clear.
It is. It protects
Especially
protects
since
the
there's
vehicle.
no storage in the space.
Yeah.
There's some, but not a lot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we need that
Well,
building. to
half
stay.
of, if you've ever stand in the basement of the existing building, half of that basement is storage.
Exactly.
We had the garage in the original proposal, right?
We
The
did,
13.2.
It was up, it
So I
was
mean,
under.
if people ask too, that's something
It's
that,
just not.
that's another reason this is less, is because of garage, but
Yeah.
we might have congressional money coming that could.
If that money came in, I think we should probably, it's like garages.
Mike, we talked about the slab possibly 2 meetings ago. I think you were remote.
Mhm.
And we said, you know, storage came up then. We said, well, can we actually cut into the slab to kind of create space in the bottom level that could just be pure
We talked
storage?
about that today.
And I did, we talked about that today. It is square footage and it goes into that number, but those are the questions I want to have detailed questions with the estimator about.
So there's still an option that we could see increased storage at a more minimal cost increase if we need to.
I have a question. The reason, one of the reasons that we want to have the multipurpose room accommodate 125 people is so that if there's some climate emergency,
Mhm.
then we have a place to house people.
That's correct.
So is there any money coming through that, the state municipal vulnerability program, whatever?
Just the potential for a
There
generator,
was-
right?
there was a,
Potential for a generator.
That's it.
Actually, Murray's trying to find out where that state level earmark is. But that was based on emergency man, but it was based on the emergency management aspect.
Yeah, so it was a pre-disaster grant. But it's a year out. And
No,
again,
no, this is an earmark Murray put in.
Right, but
That
he's
was
not-
last year
he's
for
not
the
sure what it
library.
is. I talked to him at that meeting, so he's not sure if that's made any.
But that was based on the point you bring up, saying it's more than just a senior center.
So,
right,
so we.
there are grants available,
Okay.
but we can't even pursue them until we have a project.
Approved.
We've already researched all that, we already have them ready to go.
So
if the
is
time
it,
comes.
so maybe my question is presumptuous, but would it be pretty much a done deal that we would get
Federal
something?
grants are never a done deal.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, they're competitive grants, so we will apply for them, we'll apply for everything we can get.
Okay,
I know some that we do get, but they're small, $2,700, $3,000. It's not a lot. It's the big ones we're gonna go after,
yeah.
like a generator, things along those
So
lines.
generator for this building would be $100,000.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And we've had a couple of plans, towns
I
get
think
them.
the emergency man, in terms of usage, the idea that the senior center is a cooling center, et cetera, that shuts down all your programming. You also want to overlay that in terms of the
Right, So
the
we could-
picture we're gonna build to
we
say,
could provide.
we can do both now.
Without shutting down the senior center if we have.
EOC, Emergency Operations Center up there too, right?
Yeah.
It's not an operations center, that's here, right? Because
Yeah.
EOC is here.
That would be the.
The shelter.
Shelter.
We want to lay that on there too, so that people really see that there's a plan for this building and not, if we build it, they'll come.
Yeah.
We need to
Feel the
demonstrate why the
breeze.
school's not a great shelter. A lot of people say, why don't you choose a school?
It's
for
only, towns are capable of thinking bigger than what most people imagine. And the fact that we are wanting to accommodate having emergency space for people is it kind of gives a feeling of, oh, my town's looking out for me. I think there is a usefulness, I mean, whether if we ever use it or if for that reason or not, I hope not. But at least there's a sense that our town is looking out for people's interests.
And they have been since 1993 when emergency generator put in the team.
Right, we have one.
Just for that purpose, have a place to go in case of emergency.
Yeah.
The kitchen itself was donated by the Lions Club. So I mean, there's things that can be done.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of community support. We have to have a project to get it supported.
To get there.
Yeah, gotta get to the start. Okay, I think that's, good. For tonight, it's a wrap. Any other questions or any other new business? On the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Not the late going. Home biggest one.
You don't, okay.
I sent you some bullets.
Hi.
Hey, John.
He's gonna go.
Actually got a hit on the how do I encapsulate the different things for. Discussion.
Thank you for telling me that.